the Empowered Intuitive Academy podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tay Henderson, and with me is my beautiful co-host, Petra Costa. And you can find us at the Empowered Intuitive Academy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Hopefully you're listening there right now. Like and subscribe because we're kind of fucking cool. And we talk about some cool shit. So today on the list of cool shit that we are talking about are light language and the 7 rays. Now, yeah, when I said
sure,
cool shit,
if we're diverging a bit away from the cool,
the cool, and more into the Look, personally, I mean, we probably both have our opinions in this topic, and research has not made that any better. In fact, this is probably one of our least researched topics. And when I say least research, I mean 2 pages of notes. One, because I already knew about light language. That was my sort of focus. Petra, you more focused on like the 7 rays. And then we could discuss that back and forth. But I think because it's just such a new agey type phenomena, we have a little bit of a judgment bias.
It is, and it's because it is what seems to happen with new age things. And I'm not bagging new age stuff, but it's just that it takes it seems to take its roots from somewhere and then goes off in whatever place people want it to go, which again is fine. I'm all about evolution and these kind of things, but then when they talk about it, they still talk about it as an ancient tradition.
Yeah,
it's like you've made it something completely different. And I found that with even talking about the 7 rays, it just goes off in so many different directions, and you've got all of these experts in the concept saying, okay, these are how they're broken down and these are how they're broken down, and they're not anything similar. And I'm like, if we're all coming from the same origins, which you would still be able to recognize it, I think, but sometimes I'm not, I don't even see them even. Anyway, we'll go into that.
There's like a connection of dots where there's not really supposed to be a connection of dots.
No,
it's just like it can't be a singular concept on its own that has been, theosophized by a particular group of spiritual people. It has to have roots somewhere. And I mean, ultimately, when we look at humanity and our evolution and cultural evolution and that is a phenomena. Everything has roots in everything. But it just seems like it's a far reach.
It's a far reach.
And a validation.
And it's also like it's gone in the direction a person wants it to go in rather than the way that whatever the roots were. Like it's energetics, so it's energetics. And to always like force it, there's 7, so it's got to be related to chakras. It's 7, so it's got to be related to color. It's 7, so it's got to be and that's where I'm like, okay, but we'll discuss that. Let's do light language, please. Let's do light language.
Okay. Well, I was going to be like, take it away with 7 rays, but so I love the premise of light language outside the extraterrestrial association.
Yep.
Because we've spoken about star seeds and all that sort of thing. And don't mind jets in the background bouncing on the balloon. So if you hear a big bang, that's what that is.
That's what it's going to be. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, light language, and you see it everywhere. And oh my God, I watched that many videos, reels, TikToks on people talking light language. And admittedly, only a couple of them actually had me. Like I was like, oh, wow, I feel something from that. Others, it was like,
I normally laugh out loud, and then I forward that video to you.
Yeah, and I like, what is your assessment on this? I'm like, that is really just making me uncomfortable. I'm like, they must truly believe that that's what they're talking. So light language in my 2 pages of research, I got a few definitions for it. Is the language of spirit, which I like, language of the soul, dialect dictated from where your soul has been. So in that premise, it's kind of like our soul energetics encoded and then vocalized into like a spoken form, which I can resonate with. A lot of it has to do with DNA coding or earth codes. In my art, I've used what you could say is a form of light language, but I've always called them earth codes just because that feels more grounded to me. A soul language. Now, here's the other school of thought, that it is language channeled from star beings or star origins. So here's when we get into that, you know, Pleiadian, Lyrian, Orion, star seed. And funnily enough, when I was listening to the languages, I'm like, I like the sound of Orion star seeds. But then there's also other ones, like it's like, angelic light language, fey light language, elemental light language, draconic light language. And it's like, okay, when you're talking about it in the essence of where your soul has been and what energies you resonate with, I can understand that. You might have tones of those energies within your light language. And light language is not exclusive to a certain type of person. Like everybody has it. Everybody can activate it and use it in their own ways. And most often than not, it's, you know, some people don't even speak it. It's like it's an art form. It's a written thing. And for me, when I was sort of experimenting with the concept when I first came across it, that's how it more naturally came out in like the forms of like little written glyphs. You know, and then using an intent to sort of channel those symbols and things like that as a means of energetically infusing that intent into a piece. That is sort of more of the lines of my understanding. But a lot of people also refer to it as a form of healing or frequency medicine through the use of sound, through the use of connecting to the soul, through a dialect that isn't I suppose, going to be filtered through a lens of judgment. So like when you're talking to someone, and this is a concept that actually, you know, in shamanism and journey work and ritual and trance work and things like that, it is more effective to talk to someone in a language that is not native to them, in a foreign tongue. It induces theta waves more. It has a different psycho effect on their brain as opposed to just speaking to someone in English. So it can be used in that sort of way as like a sound frequency healing. And also, what else does it say? A way to communicate between other human beings and between the wider energetics of the cosmos or the universe. So creating a connection to the wider energetics of existence pretty much. And then one thing that we talked about when, you know, I've mentioned that it's more powerful to talk to someone in a foreign language when you're having ritual or whatever. And this is proven in music as well. Psychoanalysts have done studies on music done in foreign language, and people who listen to music in foreign language are actually more attuned to the emotion that music is trying to produce, and they can get to like the base feeling of what the artist is trying to intend, as opposed to trying to as opposed to trying to decipher the lyrics and to read through what they've written to you know, get to the meaning. It's like a non-verbal form of communication, body language. So a lot of people, when they're talking, they use like gestures and things like that, and which aligns with the fact that a lot of our communication is non-verbal anyway. So,
but do you think that they're trying to put forward that body language itself is a form of light language?
I
But
think
that's not how I read it. I was
no,
sort of,
no, it's more of like an accent to the light
yeah.
language, like trying to emphasize what's being said,
'Cause
as opposed to create understanding, as opposed to just using sign language as a form of light language.
yeah, because this just
Yeah.
goes to show how different. Because I did a little bit on light language, so I'm
Oh
gonna jump in. I'm
yes,
gonna jump in a minute.
yes. But so speaking of foreign languages, right? But then questions come up of like, well, how is this too different to speaking tongues or
Yes,
just speaking
I
in another
asked that
language
question.
in ritual?
I had to
And
scrub my Google search history after I typed in a question about speaking in tongues,
yes, speaking in
just in case I got
tongues.
flagged. But
Yes. I watched a video where chick Skylife, she goes around, she looks into all these different types of, spiritual wellness, new age traditions, all that type of thing. And she went to the Pentecostal church where they're known to speak in tongues. And then she went and asked a practitioner who, primarily works with light language and stuff like that, what is the difference? And
Yep.
I agree with this in that when they're speaking with tongues, they're channeling an external source. So they're either channeling a specific angel or the Christ consciousness or God himself or whatever to receive healing and insight. And they don't necessarily have control over that process. Like they're fully surrendering to that in whatever form it takes. Personally, I think speaking tongues is a little bit creepy. They always say it's like a hallmark of possession. And so,
I know.
in that
Yeah.
context, it's like, are you
So
actually...
if you do it in the church,
Yeah.
you're closer to the divine. If you do
Yeah.
it outside of church, you're closer to
To the devil.
the
Yeah.
devil. Yeah.
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 But then
Way to have your cake and eat it too, eh?
literally, only a few of you are worthy of speaking tongues.
Yeah,
Anyone
it
else
only
who does
counts.
it is a
All the rest of you,
heretic. Yeah.
demon.
Yeah, exactly. But when you're speaking light language, unless you're intentionally channeling another being, like a star being or a, elemental, dragon, deva, whatever, usually the language is you. Like it's your soul expression. Like
Yeah.
you have control over that. Yes, it's a channeled process, but it's more tapping into your essence as opposed to channeling an external force. So
Yes, and this is
yeah,
where I got very similar.
yeah,
I got light language as an intuitive language of the soul. So very
yeah,
talking about soul language, etc.
yeah,
But again, it's like the soul, but then it talks about that you're channeling from a form of divine, of a higher consciousness. So it's like I don't have a problem with that because some people may see that as being opposites.
yeah,
But if we look at the concept that we're all part of the divine being,
yeah,
that we're all just aspects of it, then all of a sudden that dichotomy, goes away. One thing I came across when I was looking into light language, it was a little phrase that's got nothing to do with anything, but it's talking about what's a new buzzword called quantum spirituality.
yeah,
And
yes,
basically, and don't I love it when you use the
yeah,
word quantum just
quantum,
to
yeah,
just to throw it in there and make it sound sciencey. But quantum spirituality suggests that consciousness isn't a byproduct of the complex physical processes, but rather an intrinsic property of the universe itself. This view parallels many spiritual traditions asserting the primacy of consciousness, describing it as the ultimate ground of being, the source of all existence. This is what quantum spirituality is. So if you go with the concept that, okay, we're all interconnected, we're all part of the divine is all part of us,
yeah,
then
yeah,
coming from soul or coming from universe is really coming from a part of the same pole.
yeah,
So I get it. I've watched my most exposure to light language has been on TikTok.
yes,
And again, I'm fine if you're talking, accessing, like one person here says it's like unlocking an encrypted file.
yes,
You've got
yeah,
all of this encrypted data
yeah,
within you, which I absolutely believe, both from what we've discussed in previous podcasts, from your DNA,
yes,
and we've shown that that's actually proof, right? There's
yeah,
proof of that. So there's all of this information locked into our DNA. but then we've also got our soul's journey.
Yes.
So it's different cycles of reincarnation.
Yep.
And it makes sense to me that would be all encrypted somehow. So
yeah,
I get that. And I feel like, yeah, I'm with you there. And then if that comes out in melody, in whatever,
yeah,
in talking a certain way, having a certain cadence on little pips and pops that you're saying,
yeah,
I'm with you. I'm with you. Anything to get out and it will come out as an emotion. I'm fine with that. What I'm not so fine with is when you've got one person there that will, I'm going to talk in Arturian, and they're off in this, and then they say, which one do you resonate with the most? And she'll do this, and then she'll flip over to this other one. It's
yes.
like,
I
and then
admittedly, I do have a bit of,
it flips over to another one and flips over to another one. And look, that's fine. People put this stuff on out on TikTok. She might be sitting there going, far out of people buying this shit. You don't know if she's saying that, right?
Yeah.
But people are. And then all of the comments you go, oh, I must be a Turian because I really resonated with that sound. Now, what I want to know, I want to see someone do a social experiment. The chick on TikTok over here that speaks Arturian.
Yeah.
And the chick over there that speaks Arturian. Put them together in a room. Could they order a cheeseburger with fries?
Yeah.
I think they could.
Yeah.
I don't think they could communicate a basic premise. They might be able to. No, I'm putting it out there. I don't think they're communicating squat to each other when those two people speak the same language. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah.
At least when you watch Star Trek and you've got Klingon going on, that's actually a language. They can actually talk in it. You can go to a Star Trek convention and they can actually have a conversation to each other.
So I've only ever seen one video where people have actually had a conversation to each other in light language, but it wasn't a direct conversation. It was more like the person was making a statement based on what was coming through from them. The other person had to guess what they were saying or feel into what they were saying. And it was more, it's not direct words. Okay. It's like translation of emotion or whatever.
Yeah, and I get that because what they're very clear is that our language, English and all the other languages are linear languages, and they come from the left side of the brain, and it's a conscious language. Whereas all of the light languages are supposed to be multidimensional, and they're not locked down to that. So they're creative, artistic, emotional, dynamic. Get that?
Yeah.
So they're more conveying feelings. I get that. But I'm just going to say because
it's
when someone just clicks through and they run through 7 different ones, and it literally is it sounds like I'm watching Halo and they're trying to do the voices of the different aliens in Halo. I don't know what they're going to talk about, but that's fine. I get that. So when I was researching this, what I did like about it, I've looked at a lot of the light language imagery, like the symbols where they have almost like all of these glyphs that they all mean something.
Yeah.
And apparently people can just channel them. They channel them, and each of them has a specific intent, and you can almost use them like a sigil.
Well, that's like how I use them.
Yeah, a lot of these can be used like a sigil. So this one means personal power. This means personal growth. This means protection. This means connection to ancestors. And they've got all of these different things. I think the rule here is that when you look at them online, it's like, and people write books about these and they release a book. I sat and I channeled and I got all of these. This is the, 38 light language symbols I came up with.
Yeah.
I think the important things to understand is that doesn't mean there's no more symbols, and that doesn't mean one person's symbols are more valid than another person's symbols. And do you know what I mean? Because
exactly. It's unique to the person, and there's variations of
completely
various dialects of the
And because I love doing random ass symbols, so especially when I've like drawn them up in terms of the zodiac and that kind of thing, and did my own interpretation with different things. I love trying to get a feeling into just a bunch of lines.
Yeah.
Like how much feeling can you get into a bunch of lines just by its dots and its points and its
exactly
curving, all of that. I love it. And you and I are working on a course at the moment for sacred geometry, and I think light language and sacred geometry are part of the same kind of thing, where there's certain shapes that have their own energy.
Yeah.
And what people are trying to do is tap into that that energetics and put it together to make a more complex, symbol.
Yeah.
I'm with that. What I loved here, and I do like the melody side of things with the voices when you sing. I had a video of someone the other day that was doing sound healing. And when you run it around the bowl,
Yeah.
and then she was just doing just voice work,
Yeah.
going almost, and it was just beautiful, just going, oh, and just up. I'm not going to do it because I've got a terrible voice.
Yeah.
But going up and down around this, and it was beautiful.
Yes.
Like I was listening to it when it first started. I'll be honest, I went, oh dear, what are you doing? Can't you just let the bowl do what it's got to do? It's beautiful on its own. But when I stopped, I went, no, I actually feel that. That's actually gorgeous.
Yes.
So I think that's all forms of what we're saying is there's all of this energy out there, and there's different ways we can express it. So we can, by using our vocal cords in a way that they're not normally used, by getting little, we get that. And we sort of like it. I always say too, there's how that everyone says French is the language of love.
Yeah,
because it's got that kind of, even if you can't understand it, it's always got that kind of connotation to it.
Yeah.
And coming from a German background, German isn't the language of love.
Yeah,
and it's just like you can hear certain languages and they sound harsh, or they sound beautiful, or they sound this and that. So I'm with that. What I loved the most is light languages in the form of body movements. And again, I always think of, what is it, OA? I always think of those kind of movements.
Oh, when they're doing all
of that and trying to get the
building up the
And when we were doing the last podcast on the enneagrams, and they were talking about, I think, the fourth wave or whatever it was, and the language the dance that they developed. And I think, yes, I'm with you there. And then you look at all of these beautiful tribal dances where you're stamping your feet into the ground, and you're just like, that's a great feeling. And they are definitely, you can get different emotions coming out of your body and tap into it by the way you move.
This is something that I've been working with a bit through my friend's biodanza class. And biodanza, we have like, she does this class up, and there's like an intention, excuse me, for the class. But then there's like movements that go with the different sort of aspects of that intention. But like she might give us a guiding movement, but the way that we express that is purely of our own volition, and it's called like a vivencia, like your experience or your expression. So I love that with that what you say about the body movement being like that way to
and I think anyone is just that. If anyone's just let themselves go in a moment and just let their body go in the moment, and just whether you're stomping it out or you're really flowing with it because you've got or you need to shake something loose, it works. And I think that's
and I think that's the premise of ecstatic dance too, is to not to be focusing on steps or how good you look or whatever. It's just like that true authentic expression of whatever needs to be released or come out at that time, in how you feel with that music that's being played.
100%. And one of the ones I was reading up about, it's basically saying that light language just beginning to surface, and it's, look, this guy was pretty honest. He said we don't really understand it, but it's a combination of sacred geometry, mathematics, colors, light, sound, frequencies, and quantum energy. And it's about all of those things working together to affect a human in many different layers and in multidimensional ways. So it goes on to talk about that, and does say that the brings in Mandela's as well here as being part of one of our original workings with light language, and just working through these things. Look, I'm not against any of this. I don't think, I think the people who want to go kooky with things, you just got to ignore.
And that's what I was saying pre-chat too. Like, I think light language in itself is beautiful.
Beautiful.
If you take it in its purest form. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you look into it and you get people trying to over explain it.
Yep.
And to, I don't know why. They feel like they need to zhuzh it up more than it needs to be zhuzhed. And then it just takes the magic away from it.
Yeah. Like with all of the work that you and I have done recently in terms of color, in terms of sacred geometry, in terms of the crazy mathematics in quantum theory and all of that kind of stuff, it doesn't need to be zhuzhed.
No.
It really, there's no, it'd be like the thing that has a label on it that says no zhuzhing required.
No zhuzhing required.
It's too, like in and of itself, it's beautiful. And that's the same thing with the forms of dance.
Yeah.
It's all beautiful. It all
Yeah.
has, and if anyone's really, like you were saying, with this dance and everything you're doing, where you're instructed with an intention, or if you just want to get it out. I was in a shitty ass mood last night. Like I was in a crappy mood.
Yeah.
Because just one person said, too many people had said one small thing wrong, and it became that just I was just,
it snowballed.
I was just in a crappy mood.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and my daughter puts on some horrendous rap song from I think it was Megan Thee Stallion or something.
Yeah,
and starts just doing a booty dance right in front of me, like, but the full, like, I'm a Macarena dance, and she's looking at me, and I'm like 3 seconds go by, 4 seconds go by, and then we're both just like doing the most ridiculous dancing. Bad mood. She was gone.
Yes,
You cannot.
I love
give
that.
You cannot give yourself completely to being a tool and doing that kind of dancing where you're just like, let's just up it. Like, if you had seen us, it was that one of us wasn't on the bench, the kitchen bench. It was hilarious. We were just trying to amp each other up, and it was perfect.
That's funny.
And then Costa goes, "Oh, I thought you were going to get upset because that song's got, some really rude stuff in it." And I'm like, going, "Oh, I wasn't listening to the words at all. It's just the music was so just, let's just
just get it out. Yeah.
Let's just dance." And it was great. And so it is healing. Because I've got here, it is healing.
It shifts
no doubt.
Energy, it
shakes it
you
loose
from a space of stagnancy and just retention to just release and expression, and it's cathartic, and it makes you feel great. And I mean, that's kind of like when we've talked about rage rituals and stuff. People are beating sticks on the ground. It's not the process of beating the earth that's cathartic. It's the movement, it's the motion, it's the push and release of that all the anger and the energy that's been retained in them for so long, the frustration. And I think
100%
in forms of light language, ecstatic dance, toning with the singing and all that sort of thing,
all of it.
It's freedom of communication and expression of the things that we have trouble communicating or expressing, when we just allow ourselves to become this authentic channel with an intention that it does not need to be literally understood, just felt.
Exactly. Like, I do find it always makes me laugh when that basically they say, well, this is linear and this isn't linear, so it's not able to be analyzed, therefore two people can't communicate. And I go, oh, you're just giving yourself an out for why it doesn't. But I know, I do get it. Like, I'm just being like wanting to debunk it.
Yeah.
And I will say, all of those people, those ones up there that are switching through 25 different languages, I'm like, whatever, Trev, you do you.
You do you. Yeah.
But with this kind of stuff, the other ones, and if anyone, is not understanding what we're trying to say, I would say put some music on and stomp your feet and tell me if that releases the same energy that if you put some music on and you spin around in a circle. Or you do something that's more like ballet. Like, I remember when So You Think You Could Dance was on, and we used to go around doing interpretive dance all around the house.
Yeah.
And that just like doing those really extended legs out and just doing all of that, it feels so good.
Yeah.
And if you haven't done it, well, more fool you.
Yeah.
You should be going around your kitchen and you should be doing that, because
you should be having a boogie.
Yeah,
we have regular dance parties in this house, and I'm constantly singing. Like, I've always sung, and I do a lot of that toning and stuff like that as well. I have a few videos on YouTube where I've done like the sound healing toning and stuff.
Yep.
They're not the best quality. I'd like to make some new ones, but they're nice for what they are, and they're quite a beautiful experience.
So are we saying we give light language at its roots a thumbs up?
I think so, yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. And I think just that so many ways that we express ourselves through even joy.
Yeah.
When it's a joyous occasion, what do? We put on music and we dance. We listen to it when you don't have to understand the words. Half the time you don't understand the words, especially when people rapping at you at supersonic speed like bloody Eminem. Who knows what he's saying half the time? Yeah. But you don't need to, because it's the music that sends the message, not necessarily the words.
Not what. And
sometimes you can be there and you go, oh, I can't sing that, because but it's still beautiful. And I think again with artwork, we've used it as a way of expressing ourselves. So to actually just try to refine that into a symbol.
Exactly.
And how many thousands of years have we been drawing symbols on walls to represent a concept or a feeling? Like know, just one symbol can mean community.
Yeah.
Like boom, right there. So I think I get it. I don't like where people have gone with some of it, and I think people are exploiting a concept.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, and I think we've just got to ignore that. You got to ignore that on the internet now, where people just are bastardizing things. I think you've got to look beyond a little bit.
Yeah.
If that comes back and they're actually all speaking those alien languages, I'll have to apologize. But at this point in time, I have no intention of doing it.
I think people, when they're channeling the alien like language or whatever, a lot of people do it because that's like what their soul aligns with, like that's the energetic of where they've been or who they're ascribed to or whatever. And I think that's okay. But it's when it's like a direct channeling from a star being or something that, like there's ways it can go off the woo-woo end, like it
ways that it can and have.
And like you said, it just flicks between different things, and it's like there's no sort of consciousness about it. It's literally just to make a 10-minute video about different languages. Like I watched one the other day, and it was like an hour long. And I didn't watch the whole thing. I just skipped through the different ones because I wanted to see what they sounded like. And some were like, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. But others, it was just like, I don't think that's even aligned with you, the person speaking it. Like I think you're just trying to have a go at it to say that you can do it. Like. Yeah. I don't know. I think people just overcomplicate. And I'm not saying you can't channel star beings or whatever. People do it all the time, but I think have a bit of, I don't know, fucking integrity with it or something. Like, I can sit here and say, yes, I use light language. I don't necessarily call it that. I usually just call it codes, whatever. Yes, I've toned. Yes, I've attempted vocal light language. And even though I can sing and express myself through toning, vocal light language is not something that comes easily to me.
Yeah.
So, like have a bit of authenticity about yourself.
Yeah.
As opposed to being like, oh, yes, I can do that. But then there's like other things like, oh, how can you tell if it's just gibberish or if it's light language?
Well, that's a very valid question. And how can you tell?
Yeah. And a lot of people, it's like, well, they start off just with trying to open that channel and activate that language. And it's usually through gibberish, but they know when it becomes light language through a feeling, through like when it clicks, And I think you have to have real integrity and authenticity in that to say that that's clicked for you. Yeah. Like I'm here now going, I've tried it and it hasn't clicked for me yet. And I also
haven't tried it, and I can assure you I'm not trying it in any time in the near future. I do, like I said, I like the sigils. I like that. Yeah. To me, that's a sigil. It's not. I don't believe that I'm channeling an unknown language that is written in my DNA when I'm doing my
I
sigil.
think
I
maybe
just align with certain sacred geometry.
yeah, and I think it's like people expect to read light language codes like hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
But even the hieroglyphics aren't straightforward translations. You know, like
Yeah.
that and even like that happens with like the Om runes, with the Elder Futhart runes. People go, oh yeah, this symbol means O.
Means
And
this,
it's
yeah.
like, no, it doesn't. It might be ascribed to that letter, but it has a whole other plethora of energetics which has been infused into that simple symbol, you know?
Yeah.
Otala is like an O, but it's not O. Like it's not just a letter. It's related to the earth. It's related to property. It's related to materialism. It's related to abundance. You know,
exactly, and that's
like
why
there's a whole magic behind it.
We try to ascribe it to how our language system works.
Yeah,
Which is, letters create words, we create meanings, which create X.
Yeah,
Whereas some of these things have their whole link of meanings together, and it's how it's used in different, sequences as to what it actually means.
Yeah.
All right, 7 rays.
7 rays and away.
Okay, I did some research into this. And I started off with, because when you look into it, it seems like a very, very new age concept with the 7 rays, blah, 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 blah. And for people who don't know what the 7 rays are, it can be lots of different things to lots of different people. But it's the concept, and I'm just spitballing it here, it's the concept that there's 7 different energy fields that they have their own, like an archetype to that energy. They can be linked to color, but they're not necessarily always linked to color.
Yeah.
But it's just an expression of energy, and you can align with that and use those energies accordingly. What was interesting is they do come back from they've got some history behind them in terms of 7 rays being mentioned in different kinds of works, i.e. in ancient Greek mythology.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently the face of Taurus gleams with 7 rays of fire. Is a reference when they're talking about Zeus taking the bull form known as Taurus in order to win Europa.
Right.
In the Chaldean oracles in the 2nd century AD, feature the 7 rays as purifying agents of Helios.
Yes.
Symbolism featuring,
Yes.
So you've got it back then. So we're talking, that's a long time ago. In the 4th century, they talked about the unspeakable mysteries hidden from the crowd, such as Julian the Chaldean prophesied concerning the god of the 7 rays.
Yeah.
So there's lots of references in Greek mythology, in different mythologies, and also in Catholicism, I will point out.
Yes, because this is interesting, because my understanding of the 7 rays was more of like, yes, you've got a color and then you've got a ray, but there was also like an ascended master associated with that ray. And one of the ascended masters is Jesus Christ or Yeshua, and he is associated with the gold and purple rays.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I have researched. I've got 5,000 words on these 7 rays, and not one mentions a ascended master association.
Wow.
But they do reference archangel associations.
Yes.
So this is where I say people have taken this core concept. In Catholicism, it is also the 7 rays of light shining from the luminous body of Christ over the apostles Peter, James, and John.
Yeah.
And the inscription reads, radiating from this symbol are 7 rays of light representing the 7 gifts of the Holy Ghost.
Right.
So there is some real religious, and I had a lot of religious context on this, but I'm not going to go into it. But just for those who have wanted to know, the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost are wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, piety, and fear of God. They're what they mean. Now, fear of God sounds really
God.
That sounds horrible. But when you actually read the longer description of it, it's more trying to align yourself to be in align with the energetics. Fear of God sounds that you worry about punishment, and it isn't that. So I'll give them that. So what was interesting to me, and this is where my brain goes off in different reasons, 7 rays, 7 rays, 7 rays. And we can say to ourselves, oh, of course, well, there's 7 colors in the rainbow.
In
Of
the
course there
rainbow,
was going to be,
yeah.
7 rays. Well, we didn't think there were 7 rays in the rainbow until Newton put light through a prism.
Yeah.
Prior to then, we thought there were 5.
Yeah.
So all up until about the 1500s, the belief system was that there was 5 colors in the rainbow. So if
Yes.
anyone has looked back and said, well, oh, it's obvious that there were going to be 7 rays because of the rainbow, you're drawing the wrong connection,
Yeah.
because it wasn't from that, which is interesting to me. So why did all of these different religions choose 7?
Mm.
So we've always had 7 as being a magical number
Yes.
for
Yeah.
lots of different reasons. And a lot of people thought that actually Newton, when he split the light up, chose the fact that it was going to be 7 purely to fit his belief that 7 was a magic number.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I just thought that is a good point to note, because everyone was saying, oh, well, it's obvious, Petra. There's, 7 colors in the rainbow. Of course it was going to be 7. Well, not back when this stuff was written, there wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. And if you look at like all the color elemental references and things prior to that, it was never 7, it was always 5,
5, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I looked at the current philosophy, I actually looked it up. Modern physics has concluded that all is energy, we know that, and that
Yeah.
every form resides within an essential network and pattern of energy. Okay, we know that.
Mm.
The 7 ray teaching in scientific terms is a hypothesis that asserts the following. And this is where I was like, okay, all energy within form is fundamentally separate in character. Energy and the form proceeding from it can be described through 7 discrete archetypical streams referred to as rays. These 7 archetypical streams of energy are said to originate from the 7 stars, which
Mm.
comprise. Oh,
Comprise, yeah.
sorry, I was trying to channel my Arturian being right then, and so when you go back on all of these podcasts, whenever I got a word wrong, I'm channeling.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Comprise a constellation known to humanity as the Great Bear. So apparently, there's all these things within the Big Dipper, and
Yeah.
these are the energies of those stars that we're channeling.
And
And I'm like,
funny how it
right,
comes back to archetypal embodiments as well.
exactly. And I'm right there. I'm like, oh, I get it, but we've got lots. Back then, we thought we had 7 planets. So it's just like,
Exactly. I was thinking that earlier.
yeah. So I can understand our obsession with 7. But anyway, I'm like, oh, does it always have to be linked to the stars? And I think, okay, maybe it does. Maybe it does.
Mm.
Maybe it does actually always have to be linked to the stars. And when I looked more into it, there was the 7 rays sort of like worked with the zodiac, like hand in hand with the
Yeah.
zodiac,
Yeah.
which in complicated ways that I'm not going to go into. But what I'm going to give you is for people who are out there going, what do these 7 rays mean? I can't even attribute them to a certain color for people, unfortunately, because when I've seen them, there's been 5 different versions of what color goes with what ray.
Yeah. Yeah.
They seem to agree on what each rays are, i.e., we've got ray 1, which is will and power.
Yes, they represent like a trait or a
Exactly.
value.
And this is where I've seen people link them to chakras, and I can sort of see why they are
Yeah, but they're
linking them to
not
chakras.
inherently connected.
Yeah. So they've got here is it's characterized by qualities of intensity, being dynamic, quick, dominant. So it's that force of willpower and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Ray 2 is love and wisdom.
Yeah.
When consciousness is born of the second energy, it is the union of duality of spirit and matter. And this is the source of blending of light and love, magnetism and relationships, inclusiveness and coherence.
Mm.
So that's what Ray 2 is supposed to be about. Ray 3 is active intelligence and adaptability. Okay, so I'm just assuming that's a source of wisdom. It's full of energy, great manipulations, apparently, though, creativity and, again, adaptability. So you're able to pivot, I suppose, and intellectually idealism, looking for in the pursuit of truth.
Mm.
Ray 4, harmony through conflict. Well, I suppose that just means exactly what it says, center of the 7, which is what I got the other day in that card reading you did for me, Tay.
Oh, yes.
It was harmony through conflict.
Yeah.
So a magnetic relation to opposites, the point of harmony, bridging and mediation of mixed conflict, pain and struggle, etc., etc. So finding some middle ground in relation to all of that. 5 is concrete knowledge of science. And that's interesting to me that they would lock something like this to science, because not often does it. And so this is the energy of concretion into substance of knowledge and science. It leads to the searching, analysis, and development of ideas, which in the end produces light and wisdom. So there's a lot of this sounds like a little bit like Hermeticism to me when
it does, doesn't it?
I don't know, is it me that we've got one with about duality, one about, you know, learning, one about conflict and harmony? I'm hearing Hermeticism. Ray 6, devotion and abstract idealism. So the seeds of all devotion and desire pour forth from this energy. It generates adherence, intensity, and persistence. That seems like, okay, I might only get that one. Ray 7, organization and ritual. The most tangibly expressive of the outer planes. It is a quality of relationship between spirit and matter, and it's the rhythms which builds, integrates, circulates, and manifests. So that was one. What did you feel about those ones?
As in, like,
did you resonate? Did you think, okay, or did you just like, because I've got another one that is completely different, and it has the color association.
That is the one that you've just said seem more in detail and more like actually things to sort of live by or contemplate. Whereas the ones that I've heard of, it's just like the color and like maybe 2 sentences of like power or love or whatever. Like, it's really dumbed down, and then they've lined it up with like an ascended master or a being. Well, it's to embellish on that energetic, and it is usually associated with a color.
And this is where I get into the realm with people now. Traditionally, apparently, the first ray is associated with blue. So like a really cyan kind of blue. And some consider it to be actually the power of God coming through. And this is where it links with like Archangel Michael.
Yes.
That's all fine. I'm with all of that. But when someone has then taken that, and remember the first ray was all about willpower and strength, when people have then translated and said, oh no, it really is, it links to the chakras. Well, if anyone knows their chakras, blue is the throat chakra, about communication.
Yes. Yeah.
So when they've linked it to the chakras, they've taken this one and they've said, no, ray 1 is actually the root chakra. Because it's about creative will and everything coming up through the root chakra. And I would have thought, well, if it was willpower, I don't know if I would have connected it with root chakra either.
Yeah, because you're going to go with the color association. You're better off stripping the color from it and then just adding it to the interpretation of that chakra.
Yeah. So when I looked at the second ray, which is associated with the color yellow, and if we remember that, you know, was talking about energetics of understanding, positive thinking, those kind of things. I can't even pronounce I don't know my archangels, I'm sorry everybody, but it's the Archangel Jophiel, I think, is how you pronounce it. Now that color here, when I've seen that one, the second ray is attributed to the chakra of the sacral chakra. And it's talking about surrendering unconditional love. And I'm like, okay, these are not even people, they're not even trying to link them anymore. Pink is supposed to be the third ray. Pink is often associated with the heart chakra. Anyway, so they go off in when they link, they go off in lots of different realms, and they don't seem to really to care what they're doing in terms of the link. But for people who want to know, the color is 1 is blue, 2 is yellow, then it's pink, white, 5 is green, 6 is red, and then 7 is your purple 7th ray, which you were talking about linking to
Christ consciousness.
Christ's consciousness, exactly. Yeah. Here they've got it linking to the Archangel Zadkiel.
Yeah.
And apparently he is usually called into action when the qualities of compassion and freedom from suffering are required. This one's all gone on to link it to crystals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and then what we're finding a lot here is that people are just finding something's got 7 and they go, oh, what else has 7? Oh, the rainbow
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
Oh, what? And I will point out though that those 7 colors included white, so they're not actually rainbow colors that they're
Yeah.
using there. And
Yeah.
pink is not a color of the rainbow. But then people have gone, oh, chakras have 7 colors. Oh, let's link them to this and let's link them to that. And that's where they lose me a bit. What a big miss that I made when I was looking into this, that we didn't pick up on the fact that it was also personality types, Tay.
I was
I
actually
missed,
thinking about that as we were doing our little pre-chat and as we've been talking, that it's just another way of categorizing people into a specific energetic.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what I didn't, it didn't come up with any of my Google searches when I was looking into it as a way of personality profiling. They call it typology is what they do here, which I should have thought to look up that word as well, but I didn't. But again, interestingly here, we cannot stick with the same thing. We can't agree. We start off by agreeing that one is the warrior,
Yeah.
because it's all will, and it's not, let's be very clear, it's always will and power,
Yes.
not
Yeah. Not
necessarily
willpower.
willpower.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about persistence, strength, dependability. Okay, we've got that link here. It's linked to the root chakra. They're both, both called the warrior. So we're sort of like in sync with each other. Okay, we go there, we move on. What's number 2? Ray 2 is the nurturer, or over here it's the servant. The servant, just because I want to bring my family some food, don't make me their servant.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Exactly.
I'm happy to be called the nurturer, but anyway. So
Yeah.
the nurturer is divine love and wisdom, and over here the servant is surrendering under unconditional love, and your gifts are acceptance, empathy, and unconditional love, which is like a very motherly kind of energy when we're talking
Yeah.
unconditional love.
But a shadow
Um,
aspect of that is people pleaser pushover.
yep, carrying other people's burdens,
Yeah.
and being non-committal, apparently.
Right.
We then go into the number 3 is active intelligence, which we talked about before. Now, if I was linking active intelligence, I'm trying to link it to a chakra, I don't know which one I'd go with, but they've linked it here with the solar plexus one, chakra. But here it's called the strategist. Over here it's called the interpreter.
Right.
I reckon I get where they're coming from, the same kind of place.
Yeah.
But you can see what I'm saying is that people are sort of like making things fit. So 4 is the mediator, harmony
Yeah.
through conflict. Over here, it's called the diplomat. And again, it's heart chakra based. So it's linked to harmonizing through the right resolution.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the hell that means, but
Yeah.
we move up. We've got the engineer. And the 5th ray is the engineer. Here it's the scientist. Okay, they're
Yeah.
pretty much the same. Talking about concrete science, but over here it's called realizing abstract higher wisdom. It's entrepreneurial, creative, building and shaping reality. But that's linked to the throat chakra, for instance. Then we've got the devotee, is ray 6. Over here it's the spirit guide, and that's about devotion and idealism.
Yeah.
And 7th is the humanitarianism, and over here it's the magician. So even
Right.
here I'm looking and I'm going, oh, the magician. Okay, you're almost wanting to tap into the tarot there.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
that person over here thought, I really couldn't pick what I wanted to go with.
Yeah.
So I'm not disagreeing with any of the associations they've gone between an energetic that it's about devotion and idealism in terms of what they've said the gifts and the distortions are. I think you've just then tried to make a nice fit here, and I don't think
Almost like they're trying to formulate a system.
it
Like it
is.
feels like there is an evolution of something happening that hasn't quite panned out all the details. Like this is the rough draft of a system before it becomes its advanced form.
And I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, I'm with you that you can get ceremonial order and all of that to link with the crown chakra. Like I can get, you've got crown chakra kind of energy there, but I'm
Yeah.
not feeling that the idealism is third eye. I don't know if it's idealism, is it? It's just more intuition. It's more opening
Yeah.
to other things. I'm not really sure about that, and I definitely don't feel that communication is the scientist. I understand you have to communicate to learn and to be
Yeah.
educated, but
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not feeling it. I've got
Yeah.
to say I'm not feeling it
Yeah.
in that regard. But the point that this comes down to, I suppose, is that we've got the seven rays have been through biblical text, as well as being an ancient Greek and Chaldean mythology and all of that kind of stuff going back for a long ways.
Mm.
They're mentioned, so someone picked up on something, is what I would
Yes,
say.
yes, but they're it's like they're
Mm.
filling in the blanks,
Well, we're filling in the blanks now because
Yeah,
we come
yeah,
along in the 1960s onwards, and we decided that
yes,
everything's got to
yeah,
be a spiritual revolution,
yeah, yeah.
and we've gone running with it,
And
is what I think.
I'm all for spiritual evolution and spiritual development of things, but like when it doesn't flow, when it doesn't make sense, when it feels disjointed, when it's just like throwing information out there to make it seem like it's information. You know what I mean? Like
I
it's
know
like
exactly what you mean.
it's like it's complicated. Like we were saying before, it's complicating it for the sake of complicating it so that it sounds like you've got some sort of esoteric fucking mystic advantage over everyone else.
Yeah, and it's trying to like, I'm looking at this PDF that I've got in front of me. It's got all of the chakra symbols. It's got them all in the right positions, but it's given this seven ray consciousness link to them. If I didn't know better, I would assume that chakras were linked to the seven rays from their philosophical origins, and that's where I've got a problem. If you had
Yeah.
this heading of saying, like, my interpretation or possible links between, or using the seven rays to connect with the chakras or something like that, almost as a disclaimer to say, I'm just using my intuition to put this together. How do you feel? Like, you either resonate or you don't.
Yeah.
I'm with that 100%, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that I've been going through when we've been doing, what we've learned by doing these podcasts, what we've learned by doing our courses. There's some amazing connections there where you go, oh my goodness, I'd never even thought of it that way. Like, I'd never even thought of it. I had this like epiphany the other day when I was writing something up about sacred geometry, and I was linking it to yin and yang and an atom, and the atomic structure of an atom in terms of positive and negative. And I had never even for a second thought that the atom was a representation of yin and yang in such a beautiful form, because there was some sacred geometry link between the circle being feminine and a straight line being male, and then it's obviously the electrons that go around the atom that are traveling in a circular fashion, and they are the feminine in the atom. And I was like, oh wow, like,
That's very
wow.
interesting. Yeah.
And I was like, how has no one made this connection
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
Like, and I was like blown away, and I can't see that anyone else has made the same connection. Of course, when I write about that, when we put that down and we put it forward, I'm not going to say, oh, yin and yang was obviously, they had a deep understanding of atomic structure.
Yeah, you're not
When
going to say
I'm
that
not
the
going to do
Taoists
that.
believe that it was related to that.
No, I'm
Like,
just gonna
yeah,
say, wow, look
you're
at
going to
another.
propose it as a theory of
Like, just like a
connection.
wow, a
Yeah,
wow moment of going, oh, isn't this
yeah,
beautiful how the symmetry in the universe just keeps reaffirming different things. That's what I'm going to
yeah,
say.
yeah.
Look how
Exactly,
this
exactly.
reaffirms that. I'm
Yeah,
not putting it
yeah,
forward as a new spiritual movement, that I've unlocked the hidden link
mm,
between masculine feminine energy and the
yeah,
atom. Look at
yeah,
me go.
yeah.
No. And that's where I have a problem. So,
Mm,
but I think that was something when we were talking doing our pre-chat. I think there's something to it, that there might be energies out there in the universe that have their own feel, that they have
yeah,
their own um, archetype that
Yeah.
are out there. And I think this, that's why people link them to the planets and they link them to this, because at some level we are picking up on it.
Yeah.
And you can feel energies wash over you. Like I was just saying, it feels hectic at the moment. The dreaming I'm having it's a certain kind of energy. And I don't think that would be crazy to think that I'm, linking into one of these rays that
Yeah.
might, and I get that. And it also, you could say that could link to all of the deity work people do,
Yeah.
could be attributed to this.
Yeah.
But the powerful word in that is it could be. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a level of discernment you need to have when it comes to working with
Mm,
energetics that are seemingly outside of yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what I'm also saying is, although that may feel right to me, I'm not putting it forward that it's right for the world. Whereas a lot of
Yes.
these
Yeah.
blogs and these things are talking about these seven rays that are in all of these ancient cultures.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident they all had their own spin on it.
Yeah.
I think to just say, oh, ray one is yellow or blue or whatever it was,
Yeah.
as simple as that, going, well, they were never mentioned. And in all of the ancient artwork, they weren't colored.
No.
They were only shown as a ray of light.
Which
It
is
was
funny because even the chakras weren't colored
no,
in their traditional sense. So we've got this evolution of a concept
yeah.
that has
And
snowballed.
and personally, I love the color association with chakras.
Oh, so do I.
Absolutely love it, and it gives me an ability to lock it in my brain
To
easier because
understand
I do,
them.
but
Yeah.
yeah, because I
Yeah.
do have a color association in my head.
Yeah.
But you and I both acknowledge that's not how it was
And it's
originally written.
exactly, and it's funny that we say this because I was having a conversation with Tim literally yesterday about how people have this tendency of that if they don't understand something or if they don't know about something or they don't have the education on a topic or something, they will purposefully simplify, dull down, omit information, and create this system for them to sort of
Yeah,
work with, manipulate, understand that benefits them instead of getting to the source truth of what it is
yep,
that they're actually trying to understand. You know,
yep,
they recognize a gap, and instead of trying to fill it with intentionally factual information through a bit of gnosis or research, like we do with our podcasts and things, they're filling the gaps with other associations and stuff that don't flow, that
yep,
don't have any sort of base or grounding. And then that gets moved on like a Chinese whisper, which then becomes
yep,
fact.
yep. Exactly. And there's a lot of them. We're all looking for our own kind of wisdom. We're all looking for that. And unfortunately, with the ability to put bullshit and ridiculousness out onto the internet,
Yeah.
we you can grab someone with a beautiful bit of artwork and then they will think every word that you have written is gospel truth.
Yes.
And like you look at it and this is what gets me. Teach what you want to teach, that's fine, but at least acknowledge some of these things that we've got things from 2nd century AD talking about the seven rays.
Yeah.
Like it's not new age. I hate to break it to you. Your
Yeah.
interpretation of it may be new age, but it's not new age. And I think we need to think as to, just because back then we were very focused on, the planets and zodiac relationships with the planets and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Doesn't mean it has to be that, but give a polite nod to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so in all of this, I think
Recognize it as a build upon, as an evolution, as opposed to like, well, the ancient Greeks did it, so it must be this, and then have
yeah,
your own variation. You know.
yeah. And I think it's like with a lot of things we've studied that people believe have a certain period of time in the world when this is the predominant belief system.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we try to find as many things that fit in that we can support our belief.
Yeah.
We just do that. And because we're going to, because we want to find proofs, right? So that makes sense. But I think it's really important to note with the seven rays that they go back a long way, but they were never color related.
Yeah.
And they were in a lot of different religions, including
And it doesn't
Catholicism.
even sound like they were personified or personalized either. Like it
I
sounds
can't
like
see.
it was like a more of a phenomena that accompanied,
All I can see is
something.
that what I found was, for instance, when they were in the Greek mythology around it, they had a snake was shown with a lion's head from which emanated either 12 or 7 rays.
Yeah.
And that was a direct link to the zodiac. So
Yeah.
that the same being could create both the zodiac, which was one representation, as well as
And
the
the
7 rays, which
planets.
represented their planets at that
Yes.
particular point in time.
Yeah.
They would then create talismans where they engraved these, shapes that were supposed to represent either they made them into vowels in their
Yeah.
language, I think you'll find. So these 7 rays represented the vowels. Now,
I love that.
I love that too, and they had them on, gems as to carry around as amulets, etc. And I love all that. But again, yeah, all of this, that meant will and power. I haven't been able to find that link. I haven't been able to find
Yeah.
anyone that
Yeah.
actually tells me how we would did so. And I'm fine, because let's remember with the chakras, that was one person going up and meditating
Mm.
that came back. Sorry,
Well,
right. Sorry, that my mistake. Reiki,
yes,
not
not
chakras.
chakras.
Oh, that's a
Yes.
big mistake, Petra. There, with Reiki and the symbols that come with Reiki,
Yeah.
someone up to a mountain waited for the
But
divine.
that is the story that is told. A
Exactly.
channeled experience. There's a book that has been recommended through my rose processing experience called Anna, the mother of Mary or something like that. And it's about Jesus's grandmother. And the book is a purely channeled like narrative of these supposed accounts from the Icenies and stuff like that. Like I would see it as someone being like connecting to those energetics of those rays and being like, oh, well, this is what I feel when I'm connecting with that. And for me, that came through as like a blue light or something like that. But there's no nod to that channeled experience. It's just, this is what it is. This is what it means, and it makes it sound very linear and very systemized as something that's always been. Whereas I think it was probably more of an intuitive experience trying to connect to that energetic.
100%. That's what I'm thinking. That's what, like, from what I've seen, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not poo-pooing the 7 rays. I've got to be honest, because I think they've been around for a very long time. We were obviously picking up on something.
Yeah.
So I think there's a real basis there. What I would say is not to be cautious, because you're not going to hurt yourself by, reading these podcasts or everything. But I think it would also be good to see if you could channel into yourself, like try your own techniques to see if you can feel into any of this.
Yeah.
And how you feel about it. Because, like, for instance, what would we say? The blue was supposed to be the first ray, which is about will and power.
Yeah.
Blue's not really the color I would personally
automatically
associate with power.
Yeah, I think more of like red, like deep red or something.
Yeah.
Being like the first, the primal, the essence, the amplifier, the power, or even a yellow, like with that solar plexus connection.
Yeah.
That golden yellow.
Well, it makes sense to associate yellow, because all of everything that's on the earth comes from the sun, and what could destroy us in the quickest amount of time? It's the sun. So there's a lot of power and that comes from the sun.
But then also gold with like royalty and wealth, and power and position. Like there's so many interpretations you could have to these things. And 100%. Just to categorize them as one thing is a little bit injustice. The only way I can see blue more being like of will and power is that I think of primary colors, like the blue, red, and
Yeah.
yellow, and like blue being that deep sort of contemplative satin-like wisdom color.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that
I know they do like with the
introspective
blue, the blue,
masculine.
was it the Scottish that did the
Yeah,
blue?
the Picts did the
Yes, I can
blue
see blue there
tattooing
has a very
dyes.
powerful association there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like the breakdown between these 7, types of energy,
Mm,
will and power, love, wisdom,
mm,
active intelligence and adaptability, harmony through conflict. We've seen these kind of things in lots of other places.
yeah.
I do like the fact that there's knowledge and science, idealism, organization, and ritual. I
Mm.
do get a very hermetic feel to it. So I didn't even think to ask that if 7 rays had anything to do with hermeticism.
She
I'm
says it,
typing it.
types it into Google.
I'm just
And
going to
I'm,
see
I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, well, guys, what's light language got to do with rays? And I'm like, well, there's literally Blu-ray light language.
yeah,
Like
because
people have associated light language with the Blu-ray.
well, I'm just looking here. Oh, do I want to do that? Goodness. There are 7 hermetic principles that we went through before. I just wanted to check to see if any of them actually did link here. So it's not obviously the same, but geez, it's interesting, isn't it? The 7 just keeps coming up. Like,
Yeah.
what's with 7, man? I need to find out. I can't see any different ones. Principle of mentalism, principle of correspondence, principle of vibration, polarity. We get obviously polarity is 100% here through harmony through conflict gives us an idea of polarity. There
Mm,
also one that was directly linked to rhythm, which we had
mm,
that. Cause and effect could be linked to concrete knowledge of science. I think that's very
mm,
cause and effect. This one's got gender-based principles in terms of masculine and feminine.
yeah.
So I can't see any direct link, but I've done that was not what I would call intense research. So don't
At
don't
first glance, one
at
could
first glance, yeah, but
say, yeah.
it is fascinating. Why 7, man? So we're gonna have to do a podcast next season. One of them's got to be on numerology.
Numerology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
just numerology as we know it, but why do certain numbers seem to have so much resonant power? I
Yes.
think we need to look into that, which is not necessarily always numerology, because numerology can be
Mm,
its own completely different thing. Wow.
absolutely.
So does that wrap it up? I think we've wrapped that one up.
I think so. I've got no more to say on that, really.
Well, that is our last
Episode
podcast for
for
this
this
season.
season. Yeah.
Woo!
It took us a
3
minute to
seasons.
record it. We've had a bit on.
Oh,
But we got there.
we
And
got there.
thanks everybody for being with us for this time, for this
Yeah, I
season.
know. What an amazing. We're going to take a little bit of a break because Tay and I have got personal things, personal projects that we're working on, but also in the background we're trying to get all of this knowledge that we've taken on over the last 3 seasons of doing this podcast.
Yeah.
We are putting it into different workshops and different
Courses
offerings that we're putting together and courses
Yeah.
that we will be letting you all know. So yeah, keep your eyes open for getting some information about those. So all the things we've talked about, sacred geometry, colors, plant medicines, crystal medicines, all of these kind of things are all going to be coming out. Crystals are already out.
Crystals are already out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think color will be very, very close behind.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have
Lots of stuff.
lots of stuff. Anything you can suggest that you want us to put into our next season, which we'll probably be doing in the new year? I think we're going to take a nice break.
Yeah.
Let us know. I think we've got some things down, like obviously numerology is going to be one of them. I think we had cults down.
Oh, yes, we've got to do
Yes.
something about the cults. Yeah.
We got to talk about that. So any suggestions, throw them our way. And
Yeah.
thank everyone so much for being with us through these 3 seasons. And if you've loved it, let people know.
Yes, share
Help
us
out.
Leave us a like, comment.
Do a girl a solid.
Yes.
And let people know that you've loved the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone who joins in every week and leaves us comments and stuff. Like, yeah, I'll just make it.
Yeah.
You're our silver linings.
Yeah. So what happened to the cat?
Oh, fuck. Jesus. The cat.
Did you say the cat is Jesus?
No. No. I mean, we could name a kitten after him, but I'm not that inclined. So, as always, curiosity may have killed a few cats, but not this episode. This episode, we're just gonna let the kittens do their thing. They're gonna roll around, you know. Old Socrates might channel a little bit of Arcturian for a minute. Carl Jung's like, bro, what the fuck are you going on about? I don't understand. Is that gibberish? But have you seen my new painting? Look at all my little symbols. This represents love. And Socrates like, what the fuck is that? But have you seen my 7 rays?
Can you imagine?
Oh, my goodness. And old Fluffkins is just sitting back going, you kittens. Like,
you guys will believe anything.
Yeah. You're that warped by all these episodes. You're cooked. You may as well be drinking reindeer piss. Like, that's how cooked your brains are.
My delivery never came.
No. I was watching Twilight of the Gods on Netflix yesterday. Very raunchy, R-rated cartoon about Norse mythology, because that is the only way Norse mythology should be portrayed. Just saying. It even had a bit where Loki fucked a horse. He did. Look it up. Sleipnir, the 9-legged horse, is a child of Loki.
I knew it happened, but I don't know. I can't imagine watching that in cartoon form.
Well, I watched it in cartoon form, and it was And what was I getting at with that? Oh yes, they had reindeer. They'd handed out. It was the night before battle. They'd handed out all these mushies. Everyone's doing storytelling, and there's just like rainbows everywhere and lots of stuff happening. And there's this one scene where like there's a bunch of reindeer just like going in circles around the forest, and I'm like, reindeer piss.
They're on the good stuff.
Yeah, they're on the good shit.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it was funny.
All right, everyone.
Well, we will see you all in the podcast in the new year, but go to our profiles, our socials, our website, our course academy, and check out our courses and things that we have in there, and watch out for our upcoming offerings.
Perfect.
Until then.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.